unremovable imprint, that it lives with that child until death. I will live with that until death. Islam will always mean more to me as freedom, justice, and equality than it means to me as anything else. And if it wasn't a true promise to the human soul of freedom, justice, and equality, if God hadn't inspired me and guided me to discover that that's exactly what it is, a promise to the human soul of freedom, justice, and equality, if he hadn't guided me to discover that, I wouldn't want anybody's Islam. Right. The way they read it from, this is Savior's Day. I'm giving you a Savior's Day message right now. The way that the world of Muslims read the Quran to people, to me, I might as well take Buddhism. I might as well take Christianity. I'm not so impressed. Right. See, I don't need a different identity. Some of you all sharp for another identity. Being black or Negro or colored people is just too much for you. You want to get away from all of that. So you like to be called Muslim. And you like to speak Arabic. And you like to dress like people overseas. I don't need that. And I love you just as you are. But I don't need that. I need freedom. I need justice. I need equality. Equality of opportunity in this world. Don't block me. So to understand this stranger, and that's exactly what he was, a stranger. The people in the ghetto of Detroit, the poor, the most depressed areas of the ghetto, Detroit, that's where he came. And they were not educated. The average one had no education, hardly over grade school. Most of them, the great majority, had undergrade school education, those that joined Mr. Farrar. And he designed a letter for you to be approved to come into the Nation of Islam, be a member. He designed a letter that forced you to practice handwriting. Now that shows you how uneducated the people were. So he made them get interested in improving their handwriting by saying you cannot come in until you write this letter in a good hand so it's legible and readable and can be read without any problem. So some of them had to send their letters many times before getting their letters approved. Yes. So what the first thing I'm addressing here is conditions in the time. Conditions in that particular time. We're talking about Detroit, Detroit, Michigan, area of Detroit, the poorest and worst off area in the black community. And the condition, uneducated people. But sincere people, very religious people, and a few very smart. Few were very smart. In fact, some of them belonged to the Masons. Some of the brothers in the early 30s, joined Mr. Farrar from the Masons. That language attracted the Masons because they have a similar language. And it attracted Eastern Stars, the sisters, African American sisters, black sisters, who also belonged to a similar group. They're all similar. Masons, Eastern Star, and the teachings of Mr. W.D. Farrar. I'm sure that some others came in that were also from that same kind of language. But they weren't Mason, weren't Eastern Star, they were something else. Moorish Americans came in. Few Moorish Americans joined the Honorable Elijah Mr. Farrar and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In his time, they joined him too, Moorish Americans. And Moorish Americans have similar language. They have that similar language. What they say on the surface, or what the word says to the average mind, is not the real meaning. The real meaning is what you get by translation or interpretation. Right. So that's the time we're talking about. Now, How did Mr. Farad present himself? He first presented himself as Professor Farad. Not as a prophet, not as God. He presented himself as Professor Farad. This is history. This is all documented. If I had to produce proof of this, I can go get the document and show you. Right on top of the book says Professor W.D. Farad. Sometimes he called himself W.F. Mohammed. Sometimes he called himself W.D. Farad and W.F. Mohammed. Sometimes he called himself Warith Farad Mohammed. He spelled it out, spelled the W out. Warith Farad Mohammed. So he referred to himself by different names. But he introduced himself, as I said, first as Professor Farad. Professor Farad. Professor's a teacher. An educator. So that's how he presented himself first. How is Jesus